Can't please everybody, and after 900 episodes, that is a lesson that we have learned very well.
We have very well onboarded that message. There's another story we talked about in previous episodes that I think we should talk about, because there's been a development, and it is the case of a Mississippi man who was hit by an off-duty police officer. Correct me any of these parts that I'm getting wrong, Brittany. And then died subsequently, and then his body was just buried in a prisoner burial ground with no markings, and a case was brought against this Mississippi Police Department. Well, now there's a development, and it is the thing of nightmares.
Yeah, there's actually hundreds of burials behind this jail. There's hundreds of people that have been buried behind this jail. It's not just Dexter Wade, but Dexter Wade's mother, Betterston Wade, came forward, and because she came forward and said, I reported my son missing, they hit him with a car. The police hit him with a car, buried him behind this jail, never contacted me, even though we now know that after his body was exhumed, there was a wallet that was found on him.
Buried with his identification. Come on.
His ID and his home address. Ugh. And so Betterston Wade is continuing to push forward, and because she is, we are now learning of the hundreds of bodies that have been buried behind this jail. And I haven't seen this enough in online media. I have not seen this story covered enough, because what is going on here? But thankfully, PBS NewsHour interviewed Betterston Wade as well as her attorney, Ben Crump, about what is happening behind this jail.
And I should say, Ms. Wade, I mentioned families because you are not alone here. There's been, in the last few months, the discovery at least 2 other men, 40-year-old Mario Moore and 39-year-old Jonathan Hankins, were also killed and buried in that same cemetery, and their families not notified for months. From your perspective, Ms. Wade, what do you want to see happen now?
Well, first of all, I feel like that the city needs to give me an acknowledgement to say that, hey, I'm sorry. I mean, just give me some kind of closure and explain to me what actually happened to my son on that freeway that night. You know, how did it actually occur? You know, just what went down, the events that went down with it. And I want to see justice. I want to see justice done for this, because it's wrong. It's wrong to take somebody's child and bury them in a field and I didn't even get a last chance to say anything to my child, or either I didn't even get a last chance to just say, baby, I love you. Just to look down on them and say, baby, I love you. They haven't even came and called me and said, Miss Wade, could you come down and we explain to you what happened? I mean, I haven't even got a word. And so how do that feel? That makes you feel like they are guilty. They are guilty of a crime because they can't tell you what happened.
Ms. Wade, do I understand correctly that the mayor, no one from the police department, has reached out to you to explain what happened to your son?
No one have reached out to me to say, explain it, to explain what happened to my son. But I did at least have city supervisors, the board supervisors to say, that they hated what happened to me. But I haven't said anything. Nobody from JPD, Jackson Police Department, have came to me and acknowledged me.
Mr. Crump, the story gets even more disturbing with this discovery of 215 bodies in that cemetery. What do we know about those bodies?
We know, based on the records from the coroner's office, that since 2016, in the last 8 years, we can identify 215 individuals that were buried behind that jail, and their families have not been notified. Furthermore, Mr. Wade was number 672. That means there are 671 other people buried behind that jail, marked with only a number.
That is remarkable.
Yeah. And really, the clip starts with, imagine this woman reported her son missing, learned that the police had killed him and buried him in a grave marked only with a number. And they still, for months, after all of this has been exposed, they haven't called her. They haven't attempted to explain what happened, even if it would probably be lies. They haven't reached out to this woman to attempt to right a wrong or even just extend just human compassion for what has happened here. Imagine that. I mean...
And also, these are cops. These are upholders of the law to serve and protect. That's who these people are, who are just indiscriminately burying hundreds of people in unmarked graves behind a jail.
And not notifying their families.
It really does raise the question. The feds better get involved here. Who are these people? What were the circumstances behind their deaths? And I don't think it takes any kind of a psychic or prognosticator to say that I'll tell you right now, we're going to find out. We're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to find out. But the vast majority, if not every single one of these people, I bet is black. And that this Jackson Police Department and whatever other municipal government organizations are doing some terrible things and then covering up for those terrible things that they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely remarkable that in 2024, I mean, looking back at the history, and we could just look at the history of Mississippi related to the lynching of thousands and thousands of black men and families in this country, in Mississippi, this is just a continuation of that. This is just, we're going to look back on this in 50 or 60 years, and it's going to be another insane chapter in the oppression and the abuse of black Americans in the South, well, all over the country, but specifically in Mississippi. Gross.
And also juxtapose this with what we just talked about, which is these Republicans that are concerned about in their entire state, one child who may be trans and playing on a girls' sports team. Like, and there's hundreds of bodies that are marked with a number only that are buried behind a jail. The families haven't been contacted. They hit this man and killed him with their car and buried him with his ID and his home address when his mom had reported him missing and didn't contact her because they said that they were unable to. They couldn't track her down. They didn't know how to do it.
Well, here's what I think you're missing, though, Brittany.
Hundreds.
What about Thin Blue Line and Back the Blue and they're heroes? No, Brittany, you're wrong. Cops are heroes. They never do anything wrong. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt because of how difficult their job is.
Well, here's what's difficult is figuring out which police stories to cover on the show and which not to cover, because during any given week there are so many stories about police misconduct that it's like, which one do we cover? Which one do we go to? Which one do we talk about?
This could be just a podcast about the sexual crimes of cops.